Welcome to the channel. This is Brox and Max. I bought a new attachment recently for the old 770. Well, it's not old, but it's not new either. So I'm a little bit skeptical about skeleton buckets. I see online they're advertised a lot, and there's some cute little videos showing the performance of them and what they're actually used for. And I, ironically enough, had a job recently that I thought maybe it would be handy to use it for. And the long and short of it, it wasn't quite useful because the job changed on me. But they go for about, I don't know, $2,800, $3 grand, $3,200, depending on where you get them from, and obviously depending on brand. I got this used on Facebook Marketplace, good used. You can see the teeth aren't even wore off at the corners or anything. I think the guy maybe used it for one job, and I picked it up for half. So I thought, you know what, for half, why don't I give it a shot? So this video, we're going to see if it was worthwhile buying or not. And then, of course, the 870 that I just bought, that's for a future video. Stay tuned for that. So my thought behind buying this was, if you have, let's say, a round cobble pile that's kind of dirty, and in the right conditions, that's got to be dry, and it'll act like a natural screen that it'll recover probably 3-inch and above round rocks, maybe even crushed rocks. So let's see what happens. So this is a 4s, 5s, maybe 6 crushed bluestone ditching material, I would call it, and actually I recovered it from a ditch on a job. And it didn't quite work digging it out with a skeleton bucket because there was too much stuff in it. This is what I've recovered so far. I didn't want to throw it away because it is expensive stuff. So my thought was a skeleton bucket could make this a usable material again, even though it had grub and topsoil and silt wash into it. But this is what it looked like when I brought it here. So I'm going to dig into this pile a couple scoops just to give the idea of what this actually does in recovering some of this stone. So you can see with the 2 or 3 minutes that it took me, I had about 3 or 4 scoops. The last scoop was a big scoop just to see what would happen. And it does recover some, and it leaves the dirt behind. So I guess it's a little bit effective, but it takes quite a bit of time to do that. I don't know if it's cost effective to be trying to recover a pile like this. Especially, it does have a level of consistency. It takes the bigger stuff out of it, but it also leaves the smaller stuff like this behind because it falls through the slats. They do make a finer one, but I figured, me not knowing anything about these, I would start with something, and this was what was available that I didn't think was too bad to spend a little bit of money on just to see. And it's a pretty rugged bucket. It's not some piece of junk, but It serves its purpose, I guess, in this particular case, but I'm going to try something else out. I'd give this probably a 5 out of 10. If you had all the time in the world to mess around with a pile like this, it's probably a good idea, but just go get another load of this stuff and just be done with it. Working on a job behind the house, around the pond, just trying to make some access, some easy around the water's edge. So I'm sloping this a little bit and then making a roadway, and I got some shale material to make a little roadway as I go, and I'm not making a mess. As you can see right here, I got some hay down, so if it rains, I won't be making any mud. I'm going to use the skeleton bucket to see if I can clean this up, smooth it out, and maybe have it ready to be rock hounded. I'm just curious to see what's going to happen because, like I said, I've seen some videos online on how it's supposed to go, so I'm curious to see. Here's the end result of me running it back and forth a little bit. I'd call this a win. I know they make soil preparators and Harley rakes and all sorts of stuff. This is going to be shale, but I smoothed it out. And then this slope, I'm going to rock hound it and seed it and hay it. But it made it so much smoother because it doesn't act as a bucket. It almost acts like 100 people having some hand rakes in their hands and doing it by hand. Like, it filled in all the voids, it collected some of the stones, and any of the stuff I had to discard, I just put it in the pile to dig out for another day. So I'm pretty happy with this. For just a mechanical piece, just basically a bucket, it's essentially what this description is. It's a skeleton bucket. I'm really happy with this. This is probably a 9 out of 10 for what this purpose was. Not sure if that's what it's actually for, but I think I'm going to take it on some jobs here and there when needed. I think it was well worth the purchase. So anybody that's looking to buy a skeleton bucket, by all means, knock yourself out. I like the ones with teeth just because of the ground that I'm dealing with here, and that's basically the terrain in my area. But, hey, I'm happy. Before I hang it up for the day, let's see how well it'll spread shale around. this is without, you know, a heavy dozer running over it, and my roller is on a job right now. I just figured I'd try it, see what it looks like. And it actually didn't do a terrible job. It almost acted like a jitterbug for concrete, that it kind of separated the bony stuff. As you can see, it's a little bit bony. I figured I was going to be running this over with the excavator anyway, so it was going to get all broke up. But the finer stuff did collect in the bucket itself to kind of put the fines on top. I just had to be a little bit cautious because I don't know how well these buckets hold up for this little test that I'm doing. Obviously, it must be meant for picking up loose material and stuff, and there really isn't much structural support here for the cutting edge and that bar. I don't know if that bar is a solid bar or just a piece of tubing. I'm sure it's just tubing. But it's a pretty stout, well-made bucket. I just don't want to get too carried away with it. But, you know what? I'd give this maybe a 3 out of 10. You can get by with it if you absolutely had to. It's not done. I just wanted to spread it out, see what it would look like. So, now I know.